picture this with me. It's the weekend, let's say a Saturday, and you've had a sudden spur of fitness vibes and feel like you should go on a nice long country walk. Or, if you're feeling a bit adventurous, a run. The sun is shining through the trees and you're generally feeling pretty good about yourself. You set off strong, taking in the morning air. But what if I told you this story takes an unfortunate turn? One misplaced step, and suddenly you're on the floor, regretting your life choices. I hate to break it to you, but you've just sprained your ankle. Not fun. Now, luckily for you, in this hypothetical world, I'm gonna say Superman exists, and he very kindly picked you up and dropped you off back at home. How nice of him. But what actually is an ankle sprain? I hear you ask. How bad is the sprain, and will I be okay to get into work on Monday? Or maybe not that last part. And although unlikely, how do I recover to get back into doing what I love? Luckily for you, we're going to attempt to answer some of those questions. I'm Max, and welcome to the very first episode of the Injury Clinic. So, as we all know, your ankle is a synovial joint that connects your foot to your lower leg, and me being naive, not everyone will know that. So, synovial is a joint that has a fluid-filled space that separates the two bones it connects to allow movement. You could call it a hinge joint if you prefer thinking of it like a door hinge that opens and closes, and it is the most common and freely movable joint in the body. Medical professionals, like myself, although it still feels strange to say that, can refer to it as the tibio-talar joint or the talocural joint. Those names comprise of the Latin names for the bones that make up your ankle, tibio referring to tibia, and talar referring to your talus, etc. etc. Brought to you by the fantastic culture that gave us pasta. Quick caveat after filming, pasta actually originated in China, so that puts a spanner in the works of that one. Regardless, you get the idea that Latin is not a dead language when it comes to science. Now, by design, your ankle is made up of 6 components: bones, cartilage, ligaments, muscles, nerves, and blood vessels. That is 6. For the purpose of this video, we'll be focusing purely on the ligaments. I like to imagine them as cords on a parachute, holding you and said parachute above you firmly in place. If one of those were to get slightly damaged, you probably wouldn't jump out of the plane, let alone do anything else. They're very important. There are 3 main sets in our ankle, those being the medial ligaments, also known as the deltoid ligaments, which start at the medial malleolus, the bottom end of your tibia, and fan out to connect the talus, calcaneus, which is your heel bone, and navicular bones of the foot. The lateral ligaments start at the lateral malleolus, so the end of your fibula that forms the bump on the outside of your ankle. They connect the talus and calcaneus. And finally, there's 4 syndesmotic ligaments that connect the tibia and fibula. Now, to be specific, there is a ligament called the ATFL, long name being the anterior talofibular ligament, and it's the most commonly injured in an ankle sprain. By inference, and you've probably guessed it, it is a lateral ligament. Fun fact, the reason why it gets injured the most is because it is the weakest of all of those ankle ligaments. Makes sense, right? But how does it get injured? Well, apart from your wildly spontaneous running adventures, rolling your ankle can happen at any time in which your center of gravity is shifted over the outside of your leg and you put your weight through it. It's very commonly seen in sports such as football or soccer, as our World Cup hosting friends would call it. Seen when someone lands on another one's foot awkwardly, you catch the outside of your foot on the ground, or potentially a misplaced slide tackle. I will never forget you, number 9 for the other team that I was playing against when I was younger, and they did that exact tackle to me. It wasn't nice. Of course, no two injuries are the same, and if you are struggling with an ankle injury, I would highly recommend you going to see a medical professional. But if you can self-diagnose like me, let's take a look at the grades of injury. These come in 3 flavors. Think of it like an injury cosmopolitan. Grade 1, Grade 2, and Grade 3. 1 being the least severe, you have a small tear on your ligament. There's not much swelling, and the only pain you experience is directly on your ATFL. It's mostly stable, and you can move it around relatively pain-free. Symptoms should be resolved in around 2 weeks. Sticking with number 2, Grade 2. This is a larger tear. You have more broad pain than before, so it's not just on that main point. It's painful to walk and hard to move your ankle around. You'll get some bad bruising with this one, and mainly on the outside of your ankle. And finally, number 3, a complete rupture. Not only will you be cooked completely, but you will have swelling and bruising that goes all the way past your Achilles tendon, right on the very back of your foot. And you'll be unable to move it and have tenderness on the inside and outside of your foot. Now, these won't just be confirmed visually by yourself or the medical professional I've recommended you to go and see. Special tests will be used to confirm the diagnosis, and those include an anterior draw test, a Taylor tilt, or a nice squeeze test. Now, let's say you fall into category 3. How would you determine if you need a scan? This is where the Ottawa ankle rules come into play, which are essentially a set of guidelines that have been set out for medical professionals to use. Guideline number 1 is you have tenderness over both sides of your ankle bone and at the base of your 5th metatarsal. 2, an inability to weight bear completely following the injury or during evaluation. And number 3, any tenderness that extends up more than 6 centimeters from your ankle bone. For the sake of this video, let's say you have a mild ankle sprain, a grade 2 injury. Minor sprains, like grade 1s, should resolve on their own, but with the more severe ones, people tend to employ something called the PRICE protocols. Now, this is an acronym for you. P for protect, R for rest, I for ice, C for compress, and E for elevate. Now, this system is used very early in the stages of injury, let's say 48 to 72 hours since. This is known as the inflammatory stage. Following that, we have a proliferative phase. You don't know how many times that took me to say that right. And this lasts anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks after the injury. In this stage, scar tissue begins to form in the problem area. Goals during this phase would include weight bearing, increasing your range of motion, and protecting your joint from further injury. Early rehab is key. The sooner we get that ankle moving, the better. So any exercise that you'll be completing during this phase will produce a significant improvement in your movement. Taping can be used in this stage, although it is important not to become reliant on it. Then it's the turn of the remodeling and maturation stage. The goals of this stage include improving strength, active stability, foot and ankle motion, and mobility. We'll see things like walking or dreaded running again in this stage. The intensity should be gradually progressed to increase difficulty, although personally I wouldn't suggest hopping on a slip and slide right away. This stage typically is happening from 6 to 12 weeks after the injury. So there you have it. You should be back to going on those wildly spontaneous runs in absolutely no time. But while you wait, it might be a good idea to get your feet up and have a cuppa. Finally, I'd like to give a massive thank you to my good friend Ihor, who has been incredibly supportive and motivating throughout this process of getting this set up. Truly a very inspirational guy, and I'm thankful to be able to call you my friend. Now, if you have any comments or ideas for me, please let me know down below in the comment section. And please be sure to subscribe for more videos like this. I'm going to try and get an injury clinic episode out every week alongside some other bits and bobs. And if you haven't already, please check out my Instagram. I'll be posting weird and wonderful life updates on there if that's your kind of thing. Finally, and hopefully, I'll be seeing you again. Is this a good? Oh, I've got washing on my bed. It's a good microphone stand. Should probably buy a proper one. I've lost my point. I hate being ill.